The whole town believed the widow and her 3 hungry children had come to be sold into a lifetime of misery. Snow fell silently as strangers looked away in shame. Then one respected rancher stepped forward, smiled gently, and said words that left the entire frontier speechless. "I paid for all 4 of you. But why would a wealthy rancher spend everything to save complete strangers? And what secret promise would change all 5 lives forever? Stay until the end, because this unforgettable story proves that one act of kindness can rewrite an entire family's future." The winter of 1886 arrived harder than anyone remembered. Snow-buried wagon trails, icy winds swept through the frontier, and every family struggled simply to keep warm. In the small town of Silver Creek, even hopeful people had begun locking their hearts as tightly as they locked their doors. At the edge of town walked a widow named Clara. Her coat was patched so many times that almost none of the original fabric remained. Her boots were cracked, and snow soaked through every step she took. Yet she never complained. She kept one small child wrapped in a blanket on her back while holding the hands of her 2 older children beside her. Emma, only 9, tried to act brave. Samuel, 7, fought his hunger in silence. Little Grace, barely 4, had stopped asking when they would eat again. For 3 days they had survived on melted snow and half a loaf of stale bread given by a church. Clara's husband had died months earlier after a logging accident, leaving debts that swallowed everything they owned. Their farm had been seized, their wagon had been sold, their livestock disappeared one by one until nothing remained except each other. Still, Clara refused to steal. "I'll work," she whispered, "every morning. I'll earn every bite." But winter offered little work. The townspeople pitied her, yet most were too poor to help themselves. That morning a public labor auction was announced in the town square. Wealthy ranchers could hire workers for the season. Some whispered cruelly that widows with children never found employment. "They're too much trouble. 4 mouths instead of 1. No ranch wants that burden." Clara heard every word. She lowered her head but kept walking. Her children deserved one more chance. The auction platform stood beneath falling snow surrounded by merchants, ranchers, and curious townsfolk. Families waited nervously. Strong men were hired quickly. Young women found work as cooks or seamstresses. Hours passed. Soon only Clara and her children remained standing alone. The auctioneer sighed. "Anyone willing to employ this widow?" Silence. No hands rose. Emma squeezed her mother's fingers. "Mom, it's okay." Clara smiled through trembling lips. It will be okay. But inside she feared she had failed the people she loved most. Just then another wagon rolled slowly into town. A tall rancher stepped down. His long brown coat carried snow across the shoulders and his calm eyes quietly studied the crowd. Everyone recognized him immediately. Nathan Carter, owner of the largest cattle ranch for 50 miles, known for honesty, known for keeping every promise, known for helping strangers without asking for anything in return. Nathan listened quietly as someone explained the widow's situation. He watched Clara trying to comfort hungry children despite having nothing left herself. He noticed something few others had seen. Not once had she begged, not once had she asked for pity. She only stood with quiet dignity. Nathan removed his gloves. Then he walked toward the auction platform. The crowd fell completely silent. The auctioneer smiled and stirred. "Carter, would you like to hire the widow?" Nathan looked directly at Clara, then at each frightened child. A gentle smile appeared on his weathered face. He reached into his coat, pulled out a leather money pouch, placed it quietly onto the wooden table, and spoke words that no one in town would ever forget. Nathan placed the heavy leather pouch on the auction table and looked at the stunned crowd. Then, in a calm voice he said, "I paid for all 4 of you." The words echoed through the snowy street. Clara stared at him in disbelief. "Sir, I don't understand," she whispered. Nathan smiled kindly. "You're not being bought, you're being offered honest work, a warm home, and a fresh start. Every person deserves that." Tears filled Clara's eyes for the first time in months. She had expected pity, but instead she was given dignity. Nathan helped the children into his wagon and covered them with warm blankets. Before leaving town, he stopped at the general store, buying fresh bread, meat, warm coats, boots, and toys the children had not dared dream of. Little Grace hugged a loaf of bread as if it were treasure, while Samuel quietly thanked the rancher again and again. Emma looked at her mother and whispered, "Is this really happening?" Clara could only nod through happy tears. Life at Carter Ranch slowly transformed their broken spirits. Clara insisted on earning everything she received. She cooked meals, mended clothes, cared for the ranch house, and worked harder than anyone expected. Nathan never treated her like charity, he treated her like family. The children quickly found happiness. Samuel eagerly learned ranch work, Emma helped in the kitchen and loved reading books Nathan provided, and little Grace laughed again as she chased calves across snowy fields. The ranch, once quiet and lonely, became filled with warmth, laughter, and hope. Yet, Nathan knew the greatest gift wasn't the food or shelter. It was seeing a family believe in tomorrow again. Soon, the entire town began to notice that one act of kindness had accomplished what sympathy alone never could. Winter slowly gave way to spring, and with it came a new beginning for everyone at Carter Ranch. Clara no longer looked like the frightened woman who had stood on the auction platform months before. Her clothes were clean, her face carried confidence instead of fear, and hope had returned to her eyes. Every morning she worked beside the ranch hands, cooked meals for everyone, and cared for the children with a peaceful heart. Nathan watched quietly, never expecting thanks. To him, kindness was simply the right thing to do. The children flourished in ways no one could have imagined. Samuel had become Nathan's shadow, learning how to mend fences, saddle horses, and care for cattle. Emma spent evenings reading books, beside the fireplace, dreaming of becoming a teacher one day. Little Grace filled the ranch with laughter as she chased butterflies and followed newborn calves through the green pastures. The empty house that had once echoed with silence now felt alive with love and family. News of Nathan's compassion spread across neighboring towns. Ranchers and merchants, who had once ignored struggling families, began offering honest work instead of judgment. The sheriff even remarked that one man's kindness had inspired more good deeds than any speech ever could. People realized that dignity could restore a person far better than charity alone. One evening, Clara found Nathan repairing a fence beneath the setting sun. She thanked him once again for everything he had done. Nathan gently smiled and replied, "You earned this life yourself, Clara. I only opened the gate, you walked through it." Those simple words brought tears to her eyes. For the first time since losing her husband, she believed her future belonged to hope instead of sorrow. Months later, the town gathered for its annual harvest celebration. Clara and her 3 children stood proudly beside Nathan as respected members of the community. No one remembered them as the family from the auction platform anymore. They were known for their honesty, hard work, and kindness toward others. Samuel proudly helped younger children. Emma volunteered to teach reading, and Grace happily handed bread to anyone who looked hungry. Nathan looked across the smiling faces and realized that the greatest reward had never been wealth or land. It was watching 4 broken lives become whole again. The family he had rescued had also healed the loneliness hidden inside his own heart. As the golden sunset covered Carter Ranch, Clara whispered, "One act of kindness saved 4 lives." Nathan nodded quietly. He replied with a smile, "It gave all of us a family." If this story touched your heart and reminded you that compassion can change someone's entire future, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes kindness matters. Sometimes the smallest act of generosity becomes the beginning of the greatest miracle.